Welcome back to another episode of What Are You Made Of with your boy, the unstoppable Mike C-Roc, and I have another unstoppable person in the house. Wait till you meet her. But before we do that, you can be unstoppable too. All you got to do is go get the Rocket Fuel book, Convert Setbacks, Become Unstoppable, where I share how I've developed this concept of turning setbacks into rocket fuel for your future. So go get that book, MikeCroc.com/book, a little shameless self-promotion. And today I have my friend, the amazing Olympic gold medalist, Diane Dixon in the house. She is a retired Olympic track and field athlete who has made the United States National, World Championship, Pan American, Goodwill Games, and Olympic teams from 1983 to 1992. Known to her contemporaries as the indoor queen because she couldn't run outside, I guess. Because so, hold up. When we race, I'm gonna race you on an outdoor track. And you gotta wear boots, and I can wear whatever I want. But no, I have Miss Dixon in the house. Listen, she is a phenomenal person, but also a phenomenal athlete. She knows what it takes to be a champion, and I brought her on the What Are You Made Of show to find out what she's made of. So, Diane, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
And the question we always start every show with is, what are you made of?
I'm made of resilience. I'm made of determination. I'm made of focus, and I'm made of a champion. I became a champion at a very early age when I decided I wanted to compete in track and field. Now, the late Fred Thompson was the founder of the Colgate Women's Games, and I wanted to run track and field, so I was watching an event on TV, and I saw the event. I went down to the Colgate Women's Games, a prestigious event for women. And when I walked into the Pratt Institute, I said, I wanted to know who was the coach, who was the top coach. They told me Fred Thompson. He had a Izod shirt on, collar up. He had on Gucci loafers, no sneakers, no socks, and a Gucci belt. So I walked up to him and I said, I want to join your team. I was about 13.
What'd you think of him when you first saw him, though? What was your first impression?
I wanted to join his team. And I told him, I want to join your team. He was like, well, I have 200 kids already. And I said, yeah, but you don't have me.
All right. So I got to break this down for a minute before you go further. Where was this, by the way?
That was at Pratt Institute indoors. It was at Pratt Institute at the Colgate Women's Games. I followed them outdoors.
What town is that, though? What town is it?
In Brooklyn.
Oh, in Brooklyn. Okay.
In Brooklyn.
So you were 13.
I was 13. I followed them outdoors. At that time, you had to figure out where they were going to be competing. So it was the Adams Track Club. I followed them the whole time. And once I found out where they was training, I decided to jog from my home in Crown Heights to Bedside. And I traveled there and I just jumped to work out. And he was like, who are you? I said, I'm Diane Dixon. I told you, I want to run track. At that point, he said, you know what? You're going to be an Olympic champion. And he coached my personality more than who I was, because I was always very outgoing. And I became an Olympic champion, at the age of 20. I went to Brooklyn Tech. When I graduated high school, I had over 200 scholarships. I took 3 of my teammates with me. And he always saw my personality. I was always like very, very out there, So, and that's what he coached was my personality. And that was what made me who I was to an Olympic champion.
So what happened when leading up to 13 to have you walking that little walk where you said, you don't have me?
I said, you don't have me. But what I did was I followed him. I followed the Adams Track Club. There was Little Adams, the Big Adams. I followed them and I found out they trained in my neighborhood. And so from my Crown Heights neighborhood, I would jog to where they trained. And eventually I just climbed into, they had an open fence. I climbed into the fence and I just started. I went into one of his heats, one of his groups. He was like, who are you? I said, I'm Diane Dixon. I told you I want to run track. And then he was like, okay, let me see what I could do with you. And then that became history between me and the late Fred Thompson.
And so growing up in New York prior to that, though, what was it like for you growing up in New York, in the city? And it was in Brooklyn,
my mom, we was always middle class. I always got into trouble. I can recall when I was 6 years old, I used to give names, which I still do, to all my teachers. I had a teacher named Miss Ratton. I call her Miss Rat. And at 6 years old, I went up to her and I was like, ask me what I learned today. Excuse me? Ask me what I learned today. She said, well, Diane, what did you learn today? I said, nothing. You've taught me nothing. Zero. So I got to let her home. Then in middle school, I had a teacher called Miss Cavici, and I called her Snowflake because she had dandruff. And she would call my house, and I would pretend to be my mom. And then I had Mr. Dubison, my math teacher, and I called him CH, not for Clubhouse, for chronic halitosis. And I was like, you know what, your breath smells so bad, I can't concentrate. So what my mom would do was take all these letters and put on the back of my door. So when someone came to my home, they would see every letter from all my teachers. And then I got tired of being Dennis the Menace. I was like, you know what, I'm so tired of being so Dennis the Menace that I wanted to do something much more productive. And I'm a Libra. And then when I started competing in track and field, my life changed.
And then you redirected all that energy into becoming a champion.
I redirected it, and my mom came to all my track meets. I was winning. I'm like, I was the first American woman to win a World Indoor Championships in 1991. I ran 50.64, and I had the record for about 20 years. The USA Track and Field Indoor Championships, I ran from 1986 to 96, I want to say. I won the most indoor national championships in the 400 meters in any male or female event. And I was a 400 meter runner, so they called me the indoor queen.
That's
so I was always
one time
winning
around the track, right?
Yes, well, indoors it was two laps around the track.
Okay.
So I was called the indoor queen. And then when I went outdoors in 1988, I won the Olympic trials, and I ran on the relay with the late Flojo, Denise Howard, and Valerie Briscoe. We broke the American record. Although we got second, the Russians beat us. We still have the American record outdoors today, 32 years later.
Damn, that's
Exactly.
impressive, especially with all the technology now and the knowledge of dietary supplements and the workout, everything that's different now, that you guys still have that. That's amazing. And so what went into, when you were training back in the day, besides your workouts, what went into like diet? What did you really focus on or have to pay attention to during all that? Was there a lot of that going on? Like protein?
No, nowadays athletes, they have mental psychologists, mental people.
Like sports psychologists? Or
sports psychologists. Yeah. When I was in competition, we didn't have a sports psychologist. My coach was my sports psychologist. He told me what I had to do, and I did it. And so as far as my mental was concerned, when I retired and I wrote a blog called When the Cheering Stops, and then I made $1 million. And I talked about how when athletes decide to retire, it's really tough, because you don't know what direction you want to take. And nowadays, a lot of athletes have their mental coaches. They becoming entrepreneurs because they know that when the cheering stops, when they have to retire, they have to go to other businesses. Now, when I was in competition, we didn't know about going into other businesses. It was like, you know what? You retire, and that was it. But I wish I had known prior when I retired to start a company, to start a business. I didn't know. It was until years later when I became an entrepreneur.
During your competition and all those days, did you make any money doing anything during those days?
Absolutely, I did.
Where did you get money from?
Well, not the Nike contract. And then when you competed in races, you would get a appearance fee and a performance fee. Now, granted, indoors, which I found out later, I won 10 indoor national championships from, like I said, from 1986 to 96. And they would pay other athletes to beat me, which they never did. And I didn't know that until later, that they had an incentive bonus for other athletes to beat me. And I found out later. But I was indoor queen for 10 years indoors, and I got paid for appearance fees. You get paid for bonuses depending on if you took first, second, or third, if you made a national team, a world championship team, a Pan American team, an Olympic team. You got paid extra money. And then your sponsor, I had Nike who sponsored me forever. They will also pay you money per month.
I know some people are faster than others no matter what, right? But how much does the technique play in it, or your mental in racing?
Well, I think mentally it's about 85% mental and 15% physical, because like my coach told me, if he told me I can walk on water, I would. So mentally, you have to always be prepared to go into a race. You have to be mentally fit to know your competitors. My coach always had me study my competitors, and that's what made me who I was today. Physically, I was always in shape. I go into practice, I do what I had to do, but mentally, I had to definitely be in shape in order to have the outcome to make the national team, world champion team, the Olympic team. So he always taught me that you have to have a strong mindset in order to be the greatest of the greatest. And what was your second question?
How much of it is physical, mental? That was it, because everybody's fast at that level, right? So
no, not necessarily. Everybody's not fast. You have to have
yeah,
a type of talent.
yeah.
In the Olympic year, like Tokyo 2021 this year, in 2020, we would know who would make the team. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, they're going to go back to 2019 to see who are the favorites. Now, the Olympics that are coming up, the Olympic trials, I'm not so sure they're going to do a good job at doing 6 feet
Right.
distances. So we have to see. But in any event, world championship, national championship, or Olympic championship, the year prior, based upon what the athlete has competed in, we all knew who was going to make the teams.
Gotcha. Now, what challenges did you deal with training and preparing and competition? Like challenges meaning like what was the hardest thing for you and what didn't you like to do?
So my challenges were, I'm from New York City and it's very cold. So because I was the indoor queen, we trained from November until I want to say March indoors. And other athletes that train outdoors had a better advantage for me. That's why outdoors, I was just like, okay, but indoors, I was the queen of the indoor boards because I trained primarily more indoors, where the facilities was much more advantageous to me because New York City is so cold. Mm-hmm. And I have the Diane Dixon track club right now. And one young lady, a senior, she has about 3 scholarship offers. We've been training indoors, but we have to go outdoors so she can exactly prove herself to get extra money for a scholarship.
Right.
But growing up, like I said, I had 200 scholarship offers. I took 3 of my teammates with me to Ohio State. Nowadays,
I didn't know you were a Buckeye.
I'm a Buckeye, boo-boo. Yes, yeah. I am.
It's my favorite college football team.
They have my photo in the arena. But nowadays, because of COVID, it's really tough to judge the performance of athletes. Now, I'm looking forward to the Olympic trials. I was supposed to go. I'm not going because I don't think they could really do 6 feet distances. Tokyo, I don't know how they're going to do it because I'm looking at over 200 countries, 343 venues.
Where are the trials held this year?
In Oregon.
Oregon, okay.
Yeah, and I don't see how they can do 6 feet distances. I don't see how they can do it.
Nah. Well, they're not doing 6 feet distancing in football and baseball and basketball and all that. They're just doing.
Well, they have a bubble. They have a bubble, but in track and field, it's different. For track and field, it's about 2 weeks. Yeah. So you're gonna have to obviously, make sure that they're COVID free. Because my whole point with Tokyo Olympics is that if somebody goes to the games and they win their heats, right, in track and field, they run the semis and they turn out positive. That means they got to quarantine for 14 days. They will not be allowed to run the finals. Right. And that's my only argument, is that somebody may turn up positive and not be able to end their event.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, where did you go in your mind when you didn't feel like doing something? Like, did you always feel like training, or did you have some bad days? And where did you go in your mind to reach for that extra like motivation or fuel or something?
No, I always, it's funny because my coach, I would go to practice sometime. I knew Mondays was 5-3-2, 5 laps, 3 laps, 2 laps. Tuesdays was sprint. Wednesdays was 300s all out. Thursdays was sprints. Fridays was active rest days. There were times I would go to practice and I was like, oh, I can't do this. But my coach always said, potential is interesting, Performance is everything. So he would always sit me down prior to any workout. It's like I would be training and he would be like, describe the color blue. So there's never unprepared questions, only unprepared answers. Describe the color blue. And I'm like, describe the color blue. Oh, describe it right now. Extemporaneously, you got to describe it. So he would train us mentally and physically. And I always had to read like 10 newspapers. So when I went internationally, I had to know what fork to use, what knife to use. You know, he taught me several languages, basic ones in that country. And my coach was my inspiration, was my motivator in order to make me be who I was, the athlete that I became.
I love it. How do you describe the color blue?
Light blue, sky blue.
Oh, the different shades. Okay.
I did light blue, sky blue, aqua blue. I would always describe it as different. Yeah, that's what I would do. Or he would say, what's going on in Pakistan? What's going on in this country? And I would have to know, apparently from reading the newspaper, Rhodesia was changed to this name and that name. So he would always make me feel that I had to be very aptitude when it came to current events, and when it came to any questions that he asked me, because he was like, listen, when you go up to give a speech, it has to be extemporaneous. You can't memorize anything. Right. You need to know what you have to say. And that's what helped me out to be a top athlete.
Now, how did you start getting into the business world? You said you wrote a blog or something, then you made $1 million. Like, what did that entail?
I made $1 million. Well, one of my fiancés introduced me to the Forex exchange.
Hold on a second. How many fiancés do you have?
8. I had 8.
Oh, you had 8, but not all at once, right?
No, I had 8. So my 6th fiancé introduced me and my son to FOREX, the foreign exchange market, back in 2008, which they're doing now. And he introduced me and my son, who was 10 at the time, to the foreign exchange market. And it was called tidbits. Red, it was red or green or whatever. And we had to sit there. He gave me like a dummy money initially to invest. And I got into the real market. But that was in 2008. And people just started getting to Forex, the FOREX exchange market. Yep. But I learned very early. I lost a lot of money. But then, I gained it back. I'm okay. I'm doing investments now with my child, and we're doing okay.
Gotcha. I'd love to hear the story, but I just got started getting into Bitcoin a little while ago, and it's just like betting football games, really, when it comes down to it, because it's not like you don't know what's going to happen. You know what I mean? So
no, you don't.
All right. So, guys, what's the best way for my audience to engage with you further? Is it Instagram, or where can they find you?
Well, I have my website called Diane Dixon 400plus.com. You can email me at dd@DianeDixon400plus.com. On Instagram, I'm Diane Dixon. I'm not anything else. On Twitter, I'm Diane Dixon. On Facebook, I'm Diane Dixon. So you can always DM me any information, any collaborations. But I use my name always. Nothing that's Clubhouse. I'm actually Diane Dixon. I think it's 555, not sure, but that's how I met you on Clubhouse. And thank you so much. But I'm basically Diane Dixon.
Yeah. Guys, go find her on Clubhouse too, because she tell you how to become a champion, and she is all around the right rooms too. For what I see, she might have an opinion on that, but I'll leave that there.
I'm okay.
And if you have
some rooms are like, I guess so. Yeah. It's so funny. I go on Clubhouse and I hear the same people telling the same stories, and I'm like, okay,
it wears off sometimes, right? Yeah, it wears off sometimes.
Okay.
Well, look, if you have a really fast child and you want to get some advice on how to get them into track and field or something, man, just reach out to Miss Diane Dixon. And finally, the last question. I came up with this rocket fuel law, right? It's because I went through my life and I kept figuring out, like, somehow I kept rising no matter what happened to me, no matter what came my way. I figured it out, right? But I really was, what it was is I was taking everything that would come and stop most people or slow them down, and I was converting it into rocket fuel for my future, and I was blasting off through it. And then I felt like, well, if that's the case, I'm taking all that stuff out of the way. I can't be stopped. Unless I'm plucked from this planet, I can't be stopped. That's the rocket fuel concept. What does that mean to you in your life, and what does it mean to your future, Miss Diane?
So rocket fuel means to be progressive and proactive. It means to go after your goals and objectives. It means to buy your book, to read it, to understand what's going on. And it also means to never give up, to be present, to be perseverance, and to be always following up. I tell my track team with my girls that they have to be persistent. They have to always go after goal settings. They can never give up, never giving up. You know what I'm saying? And always going after your goals, objectives, being persistent and following up, showing up. Like I said, potential is interesting. Performance is everything.
Love it. Love it. Let's go. We'll end on that one. That's awesome. Well, actually, I want to end on something else. She also said, don't be fake, be yourself, and don't be pretentious. If you're doing any of those things, cut it out right now. Right, Miss Diane?
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Be your authentic self.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's an honor to have you as the
you.
champion you are on my show. And I'm really honored. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Take care. Stay safe and blessed.
Thank you. You guys have been listening to the What Are You Made Of podcast with your boy, Mike C-Roc, and the wonderful Miss Diane Dixon. Come back next time, guys. Go subscribe to the podcast. Watch it on YouTube at Mike C-Roc Ciorrocco. And till next time, be unstoppable.